we're speaking about the fire of the Torah, the effect of the Torah to bring out really two aspects. One is the aspect of truth, and the other aspect is of chesed. And it is through the act of not only learning, but actually doing it, implementing what we learn, that we see the chesed aspect of the Torah and also the veracity or the truth aspect of the Torah. Today we're going to continue hammering the point home. That is to make it abundantly clear to everyone what we're talking about. So the Alei Shur says that the toiling in Torah should bring us to recognize and to connect with Hashem. That's the purpose of toiling in Torah. And let's see the source for this. So the Alei Shur says, he brings a Gemara in Nedarim. For those of you who want the source, it's Nedarim 81a, Pei Aleph Amud Aleph. And here's what it says. Amar Rav Yuda Amar Rav. Mai dichtiv mi ha'it shechacham ve'yevin et zot. Right, so the prophet Jeremiah says, who is the wise man that will understand this, which is what? That will know why did the Jewish people lose the land of Israel. Right? Jeremiah was a prophet at the time of the Babylonian exile. He was there prior to the war with the Babylonians, during the siege, and during the destruction, and a little bit afterwards. Try to stay with me. I know it's pasta. Pasta knocks everybody out, but stay with me. So the Gemara says, "Davar ze nishal lechachamim uleneviim." This question was posed to the chachamim, to the wise sages, and to the prophets. What question? Anybody? What was the question that they asked? Why did we lose the land of Israel? Such a difficult question. And it was not explained until the Kadosh Baruch Hu himself explained it. That is, all the sages of the land of Israel and the prophets did not know the reason why the Jewish people lost the land of Israel during the Babylonian exile. Beit Rishon. The Gemara continues. It says the pasuk says, "Vayomer Hashem." God says, "Al ozvam et torati," because they abandoned my Torah. That is, says the Gemara, "Lo shamu bekoli," did not listen, hearken unto me, and they did not walk in its path. The Gemara continues, "Amar Rav Yuda, Amar Rav, she'en mevarchin b'Torah tchila," because they didn't make the blessings on the Torah before learning Torah. That is why we lost the land of Israel. Now, Rabbi Breidowitz has a beautiful shir on this on the website or in Hidabroot for last Tisha B'Av, if I'm not mistaken, if not 2 years ago, on this Gemara. So if you're interested, you could look that up. That he talks about this in detail. What does this mean? The land of Israel was lost, according to Rav, because the Jewish people didn't make a bracha before learning Torah.
That's it?
That's it. That's what the Gemara says. Right, we have a bracha before we learn. Right, Asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. That's why we have a bracha.
Don't you say that in the morning?
Say it in the morning.
And it covers the whole day?
Covers the whole day.
If you say that bracha but you don't learn Torah, it's like
If you say the bracha and you don't, So if you look at the bracha right afterwards, you say psukim.
You say Basukim, but what if you skip it? You just say the
If you didn't say it, you should study. But you don't say Shema right there and then. So what you say is the Birkas Kohanim, the priestly blessing. Okay, but you guys are trying to figure out about you. We're talking about back then, right? That the Babylonian destruction occurred, the exile, was because they did not make a bracha before learning Torah. Is that a little too extreme? Is that a little too much? So the Ran writes, "V'matzati b'Megillat Starim shel Harav Rabbeinu Yoina." I saw in a book, in a scroll that belongs to Rabbeinu Yonah, that it says that they did not make the blessing of the Torah, they lost the land of Israel. It sounds like from the verse that is quoted that since they abandoned my Torah, it means that they didn't study Torah at all. But that's not the truth. He says, but rather they did study Torah. And that's why it wasn't clear to them. People were studying Torah that generation. People were learning Torah. That's why they couldn't understand why was the land lost. And comes the answer that the Kadosh Baruch Hu says, because he knows the hearts and minds of every person, that they did not make a bracha in the beginning. What does that mean? That the Torah wasn't important to them to make a bracha, because they didn't learn Torah lishma. They didn't learn Torah for its own sake. That they were belittling making brachas, and therefore they did not, it's as if they abandoned God. They didn't really do it with a proper intent. The whole purpose of learning Torah is what? To know God and to connect to God. If you're learning Torah for another reason, then you're misusing the Torah. How isn't the Gemara that we're learning connect me to the Kadosh Baruch Hu? So first of all, you have to understand that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is the one that is teaching you this. Correct? And what does he want you to do? He wants you to know, first of all, about Yush. That you shouldn't despair. That in this world, Yush lo midat lo have Yush. That if you really knew what is going on here, you would never be despaired. He wants you to know that this world has certain rules that affect your moral perfection. So because you, by looking at an object that you find and decide whether you can keep it or not, and you control yourself, that is, you might like this Rolex watch that you found with the name Johnny, right? On the bottom, you hold yours and say, no, there's a siman, and I need to return this, so I'll make a sign. Even though you could just keep it. Nobody would know, because you found it. But Hashem says, I know. And I'm putting you in my world. And in my world, this is how I want you to live. Why? Because living this way makes you a better person. And the better you are morally, the more connected you are to me. That is the whole of learning Gemara. Is an ability to control the Yetzer Hara. To say when the Yetzer says, just take the money, look around. Nobody's here. Take the money. And you say, no, I'm taking it. I'm going to make a note. And I'm going to return it to the rightful owner. Why? Because that's what Hashem wants me to do. And my role in this world is to do what Hashem wants. But you can't do what he wants if you don't know what he wants. And the only way you would know what he wants is if you learn Torah. So Bava Metzia is exactly the reason why you would know God and you would connect to him. Right? So you understand that there are concepts of a siman, not a siman. Rove, not rove. Right? All those sort of questions that the Gemara raises is in order to implement the verse in the Torah that says there's such a thing as a lost object. And Hashem wants you to care. And there's lots and lots, and it's a mitzvah to do. And then you're a shomer, and you're shor mechinam, you're all the rules that come around this. And there's a general statement that says that if a person wants to become a good person, he should learn Nezikin. If you want to be good to Hashem, you learn brachas. You want to be good to your fellow human beings, you learn Nezikin. If you want to be good to yourself, you learn Masechet Avot. So you are actually doing this. Because Hashem says, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. I want you to love your fellow human being as you love yourself. And therefore you need to know the rules. Or when do you take something and when you don't take something. Okay? They studied Torah at the time of the first temple. They learned and they enjoyed the learning. But what was missing? What was missing was that they loved studying Torah for the sake of the wisdom of the Torah. They loved studying Torah for the sake of the wisdom of the Torah. Like, wow, it's really interesting what it says. It says this, it says that, wow. But they took the Torah and left the Kadosh Baruch Hu. The reason we study the Torah is because we want to know the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Don't forget that. Don't lose sight of the goal. Because the Torah itself is beautiful, is amazing, but there's a Kadosh Baruch Hu behind it, that this is what we want. And that's where the problem was. That is, not making a bracha means that they left the Kadosh Baruch Hu that commanded us to be toiling in Torah. They said, we're going to study Torah even if you didn't command us. But that's not the point. That's not the point. The purpose of learning Torah is so that we have a better connection and understanding of who the Kadosh Baruch Hu is. It's not a philosophy class. It's not, intro to world religions. Let's learn about different things. No. It's about trying to learn as much as we can about Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's the goal. Before a person comes, this is what the Alei Shur says. Before a person comes to learn Torah, he has to understand that the Torah, what he's coming to learn is the Torah and the will of Hashem. It's the Torah and the will of Hashem. Okay? And the purpose of the Torah is to come, I'm saying it again and again and again, is that you recognize the Kadosh Baruch Hu and you connect to Him. So we learned that the Torah gives us clarity in this world. Correct? Remember that? That it creates birur, clarity in the world. Because the word olam, the word in Hebrew olam, means hiddenness. Alama. Which means that God is hiding in physicality. And it's only through the Torah that we can figure out what is real and what isn't. And we learned also the sugya in Nedarim with regard to the blessing of the Torah. Now, I want to share with you, this is what the Alei Shur brings. He brings the Tur, and then he brings the Bach, the Beit Chadash. So the Tur writes, Birkat HaTorah me'od tzarich lizaher ba kedeita b'nedarim. With regard to the blessing of the Torah, one must be very careful. That is, you have to make sure you say it with kavanah. You have to be very careful. Because we saw the Gemara in Nedarim. That is, if you learn Torah without making the bracha, without the right intent, without the right mindset, it caused the Babylonian destruction. Right? We saw that Gemara. It's very serious. It's no kid's play. The Bach writes, Ika litmoa tuva. we should ask a bigger question, which is what? למה יצא כזאת מלפניו להענישה בעונש גדול ורם כזה, על שלא בירכו בתורה תחילה, שהוא לכאורה עבירה קלה? The real question, the Bach says, is how could they have been punished? Such a grave punishment, the destruction of Jerusalem, the exile of the Jewish people, for what at least seemingly appears to be a small sin. So they didn't make a bracha. So what? For that, thousands and thousands of people are going to be killed, temple destroyed, all the vessels of the temple taken to Babylon, the king exiled in chains, all the people taken to Babylonia, starving, all the things that we fast about, because they didn't make a bracha. Didn't we go a little too far here, Hashem? That's what the Bach is suggesting. Venire. And therefore it appears that the purpose of the Kadosh Baruch Hu me'olam hayta sheniyeh oskim b'Torah, that the purpose that God has for human beings is that for us to toil in the Torah. Why? Kedei shetit'atzem nishmatenu ba'atzmut v'ruchniyut v'kedushat mekor motza Torah. Because the reason is so that our neshama becomes more pure and become more spiritual and closer to the source of the creator of the Torah. The benefit is for us. It's for us. I heard once a parable that there was a man standing at the edge of a cliff painting a painting of scenery, beautiful scenery. And he wants to get a better view, so he keeps moving the easel closer and closer to the edge. But he's got these earphones on, Bluetooth, can't hear, and everyone is trying to get him to stop moving farther because he's going to fall. And someone just grabs the easel and rips the painting. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, what are you doing? He says, I'm trying to save your life. Because you were about to fall down and you weren't listening. The reason I took away the temple was to save you. Because you were tumbling, you're going to tumble down to the abyss of darkness. Where you're going, you didn't need this painting. He's saying that because they failed to elevate their neshamas, they were going lower and lower and lower. There was no purpose for this anymore. If you see, this is something that we can discuss more in detail. I guess you won't hear it. But when we're talking about the building of the Mishkan, you'll see that the whole purpose of the Mishkan is to give us a reflection of who we should be. That is, to what level the neshama can shine and become fully actualized. Therefore, the Kadosh Baruch Hu gave the Torah to the Jewish people, so that it will not be forgotten from us, so that it will be part of us, part of our soul, neshama, and here's the clincher, part of our body, the Torah, part of our body, which is in the 248 parts of mitzvot aseh, and the 365 parts that are mitzvot lo ta'aseh shebatorah. 365, not parts. So when Chazal say, when the rabbis say that the Kadosh Baruch Hu looked at the Torah and created the world, it's not only this world. It's not only the physical world, it's also the spiritual world. He looked at the Torah, it doesn't only refer to this world. It refers also to the spiritual realms. All of it. Both what is above physicality and the physicality. And it's only through the toiling of the Torah that we can connect to the spiritual aspect of us and thereby connect to Hashem. And we can become, that the Torah can become part of our essence. The Torah can become part of who we are. That he says, this is what he writes, the Alei Shur. I'm just going to read it to you what he says. שהתורה תהפך למהות שלנו, ממש שנהיה ספר תורה חי וש"ס חי. That the Torah will become part of our essence, and that we will become a living Sefer Torah and a living Gemara. That could happen. It's not something that is impossible. You just have to have the right intent. And what's the kavanah? To reiterate, is that we're learning Torah in order to know and to connect to Hashem. We're not learning it as an intellectual exercise. We're not learning it because it's like a really cool chess game. We are learning it because we really are trying to get as close to the Kadosh Baruch Hu as we can.